G'day and welcome to The Outer Side. I'm Tony, and in this episode I'm joined by Harry Fisher, better known to most as Fire to Fork. Harry, welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you very much, Tone. Good to see you.
Before we get into the main body of work here, I'm going to ask you the fast five.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and you're
Alright.
going to answer with the first thing that comes into your brain.
Okay, that's terrifying.
What is your dream car, and why is it an 80 Series Land Cruiser?
I've had 280 series, and it is not an 80 series.
So what is your dream car?
Chopped 300. Yep.
Tidy.
Yep.
What is your favourite place in Australia?
The answer to this is funny, but it doesn't actually. It's not intentional. It's actually a place called Harry's Hole.
Of course it is. Where is Harry's Hole?
It's Blair's favourite place as well.
I've heard that about him.
No, so Harry's Hole is a gorge in the Kimberley. You have to go to a certain roadhouse, which I won't name, and you go and get the key, and you pay like $20, and you can stay there for as long as you want. They only allow 6 people in there, not 6 cars, 6 people.
Yeah, right.
And it is stunning. It has a waterfall. It's a big gorge. You can go to the top of the waterfall, and there's like a natural spa overlooking everything. So
That's not the one that you jumped off and broke your back.
No, that was in the Ord.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
No, it's different. Yeah, there was no spa at the top. It's different. Yeah, it's just a stunning place. I'm an inland bush kind of guy, but with water. I'm not a beach. I like beach camping, but I prefer inland with water.
Yeah, beaches have sand though. That's the downside.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Is it a Parma or a Parmee?
Parmee, because it's spelt Parmigiana.
He's the chef. So everyone in Victoria, you've heard it here first.
Yep.
I'm yet to have a Victorian on the show other than Paulie, and I didn't ask him that question. That was possibly tactical. Is a Toyota Prado a Land Cruiser?
No.
Good.
Done.
What would you eat for your last meal?
Wagyu teriyaki. Yep.
Tidy.
Yep.
I've tried that recipe of yours. It's very good.
Thank you.
So, now that we've got that out of the way and we've covered all of the world's most pressing topics, tell me a bit about yourself. You obviously make a living now from cooking food on a fire
I do.
and making YouTube content, but
Yep.
that's not where you started.
Not at all. Couldn't be further from it. I think there was recently there was a comment on my thing. It was like, drink a beer every time he mentions the fact that he used to be GM of a software company. So drink a beer.
Good.
So I started off in corporate finance. I did all my uni stuff. I did a quadruple major, studied not that hard, but got it done. And I worked in insolvency for nearly 10
true.
years. So I used to nurse businesses back to health or fire sale them. If there was ever a way to kill your entrepreneurial spirit, that was it. And it didn't kill it. And I decided I wanted to get out of that. I actually really liked the people I worked with, and I did actually like the industry. But I wanted to do something more positive, I guess. That's when I went to the little software company. It was a startup, and I worked there for nearly a year, and it wasn't for me. And I quit, and I was like, I'm going to go and find another corporate job, and I never found that corporate job. And now I do this. So I just started making videos in the backyard, and
Was it because you don't like wearing shoes?
mainly, yeah. Yeah, ties suck.
Ties do suck.
Yeah.
If I ever went to a place and a tie was an expectation, that would be a deal breaker for me.
8 years. 8 years I
Really?
wore a suit and tie every day. A tie.
It's just not productive.
It sucked. Yeah. 40-degree days, standing there on the street in a suit and tie. Like,
Yeah, no, we've progressed in so many ways as a society, but
Yeah.
that's just that one tradition that hasn't really seemed to break.
in my last year of corporate, they stopped. The ties kind of left, and like
That was
I mean,
at the start-up.
even things like I remember growing a beard, and that was like, whoa. I was the only guy in the office with a beard.
I can say this now because the person involved no longer works for GME, but when I first started at GME, my boss at the time pulled me into his office and said, mate, the beard's getting a bit out of control, you should probably trim it. And I just stared blankly at him.
Mate,
was
it's
like-
my face.
I work in marketing, dude. Like, my beard is irrelevant to
Yeah.
my capabilities as a employee. It was such a strange conversation to have.
I kind of understood it from a corporate perspective because I would big part of my job was firing people. We used to go into companies.
What, and you can't have a beard to fire people?
Well, I wasn't that clean cut professional. Like I was supposed to come across to clients So firing people, so as in like, they're like, who's this,
Homeless
raggedy,
dude.
but it was always neat. Like, it was
Yeah.
always a neat beard. So if I ever let it get raggedy and ratty, that would be one thing, but it was short, cropped, like, trimmed. It was neat.
What are you trying to say, man?
Yeah, I didn't look like a bikie like you.
Yeah, it's more the Ned Kelly vibe we're going for.
Like, are you firing me and then stealing my car?
But isn't yeah, possibly. Isn't that like part of the reason though? Was it part of the desire to just be able to do what you wanted to do and not be so constrained?
I never wanted to make this my job.
Really?
Yeah, it was never my intention. It literally happened by accident. So when we moved to Broome in 2020, I was still looking for a corporate job, and but what I was going to do all through 2020 was tourism work. I had a bunch of stuff lined up. I was going to do some filming for some people. I was going to do like cooking demos for like high-end tours in the Kimberley. So like go to Kununurra, and like these people were paying $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 for this trip. And so I would go out into the bush with them and teach them how to cook gourmet food. And that was my idea. And I thought that was a pretty good thing. I was even some like long table dinners, things like that.
Oh yeah, sick.
So that was the idea. And then this thing called COVID hit, and then I had no tourism work. So I started making YouTube videos. And then that took off.
Almost by accident.
It was completely by accident.
So, and it's so funny because we've been talking before we started filming today about a couple of other people that make cooking content on the internet. And it seems to be a common trend that so many of them started during COVID. Like, and that's what I reckon. That's how he started, right?
Yep. Andy started. Andy Hendon, Andy Cooks. He sent me a message, I remember, ages ago. I had more Instagram followers than him at the time. He's got 5 million now. 6 million, something like that.
Yeah.
Over platforms, he's got about 17 million. He goes, I watched your How I Started Fire to Fork video. And he's like, that was one of my big inspirations for starting Andy Cooks.
That's so sick.
And I was like, get out.
Yeah, and now you are dominating the online cooking space.
He's the biggest in Australia.
Yeah. And like, globally, he'd be pretty big too, right?
Massive. Yeah.
He's done exceptionally well. So you, even before you started the YouTube content stuff, you were talking about, your concept around the tourism. So are you in any way a trained chef? Have you done any like hospitality stuff?
Nothing. I was a waiter.
How'd you learn to cook?
Uni. My mum's a chef. So
handy.
I learnt to cook well from my mum. I learnt to eat well by eating my mum's food.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. It was like, I didn't like eating shit food.
Yep.
So I learnt to cook good food.
Yeah.
That was basically the framework of it. It was like, well, if I want to eat well, no one else is going to cook it for me because I like going camping.
Yeah.
So, and then because of that, I ended up being, designated cook for every trip. And I liked it. I loved planning the recipes, planning the meals, trying to figure out interesting ways to do it. And just buying cheap gear that I could kind of roughly shoehorn into making that thing that you can't normally make. I remember getting like these cheap camp ovens and stuff that I think I bought one for like $5 from a garage sale, and it didn't even have a lip on the top. So like you'd get all the ash that fall in, and I used that for like 4 years.
I still use one of those that doesn't have a lip. I take it as like a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
but it works, right?
Yeah, you like blow it all off and sweep it all off, then you check it and you're like, oh, I can rebuild it again. And like, whatever, it works.
So you started doing stuff in your backyard.
Yeah.
Did you have any sort of content background? Like, had you done any like creation video work before?
Never video, always photo.
Yeah, okay.
So I worked as a photographer at uni. I used to do everything from graduation photos through to weddings and corporate gigs.
Yeah, right.
So I used to do like headshots for, for websites and stuff like that. And that was, great money, right? Because, you're 19 or something and you're getting $800 to go and take photos of 30 staff, and you're like, this is mint.
Not bad.
Like, like, that took an hour. This is great. Helicopter.
It's just this show. Whenever I start recording a podcast, we just, wherever we are, we end up under a helicopter flight path.
RAAF flight.
Yeah, apparently. Sorry, I was just checking which helicopter was joining us today.
Channel 7's. Like,
yeah, right. So when you started filming, like, were you filming it on a phone? Were you filming it on like high-end gear? Where'd you start?
It was a Sony A7 I.
Okay, so not terrible, but not
terrible.
A video camera.
The thing is, I had full frame cameras for a while.
Yeah.
So like, because of my photography background. So, and then turns out they did video, and I'd never flicked it onto video mode. and I had a GoPro, but it was always just because I like taking photos, and I'd take scenic photos of wherever we were. And then Ronnie Dahl convinced me to start Fire to Fork.
Yeah, true.
On a trip in 2017. So I was on other people's YouTube channels before. So I can absolutely give, like, there are two main people that helped me grow. I had 3,000 subscribers on YouTube before I had a video.
That makes me somewhat jealous.
Because I was always in Alex for Intense,
Yep.
his videos and Ronnie's videos.
Yep.
And so I'd comment on the videos, and then people would see my comment and go, that's the guy in the video, I'm going to subscribe to him.
It's so strange the way that happens, eh?
Yeah.
I've got a Toons YouTube channel that people have subscribed to. There's nothing on there, but people I just made it so I could comment on stuff.
Yep.
And then, people are following me. I'm like, are they expecting me to make a video at some point? Because I'm not.
Yeah, so, and then my first ever video was with Graham Cahill.
Oh, true.
I did 3 videos with him in a row.
Was that the Fighter Talks?
Yeah, that was where Fighter Talk came from. And what that was he messaged me and he goes, man, do you want to go and do a camp? And I was like, oh my God. Yes.
Yes, I love that.
Ever. He followed me on Instagram, because it was just Instagram first. And he followed me on Instagram and then was like, man, I love your cooking. Like, I'd love to do a camp with you. And I'm like, oh my God, yes.
Yeah, full fangirl.
Full fangirl. And then I was like, I have to make the most of this. How do I make the most of this? And I was like, I can take photos, but that's not going to do it. I get an opportunity to sit down with Graham Cahill and drink beers. And I was like, this is epic. So I went, well, do you mind if I make a video? Like a little video of it? And I was like, can I interview you? And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. I don't care. Like, if it helps you, then great.
Yeah, because he's so easygoing, right? He'll do anything.
He doesn't care. He got in a lot of trouble for that.
Due to commercial arrangements in my other job, I will not comment.
They were like, you work for us.
Yeah, stop that.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I cooked for him, and I did a video of us hanging out. I did a video of an interview, and then I think it was just 2 parts of an interview.
Mm-hmm.
And that got like 100,000 views straight up. And all of a sudden I had 10,000 subscribers.
Yeah, and it's like, this is becoming a thing.
I was like, I did one video and I had 10,000 subs. Or it was actually 3 videos, but like one trip.
Yeah,
and I was
amazing.
like, oh, wow, this is good. And I was like, I've actually got access to some pretty interesting people. So I did one with Ronnie, and I did one with a whole bunch of different people. Mm-hmm. I did one with Alex for Intense. And then, I've done a few. I just did TJ and Mac last week. And anyway, trip in a van, like all kinds of people.
Yeah.
And so that's how it started off. And I was doing a video every 6 months.
Yeah.
And it grew quite quickly. And then by the time I moved to Broome, I think I had 15,000, 20,000 on YouTube.
Yeah, right.
And I'd done one cooking video.
Amazing.
Yeah. And the first ever cooking video I did is still my most viewed video ever.
Is it?
750,000 views.
Which one was that? I'm sure I've watched
Ultimate Steak and Chips, round 1.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Actually, yes, I have watched that because I cooked those chips and then sent you a photo of it.
That's
before
right.
I'd even met you.
Yeah,
That's
cold
right.
oil chips.
Yeah, man.
So, that went really well. And then I went, okay, this has legs. And that's when I uploaded that when I basically just before we went to Broome. And then I went, I better keep doing this. And so I was like, I'll do a video a month or something while in between my tourism work, and then didn't have any tourism work. And I was like, actually, you know what? Cable Beach is a 7-minute drive from my house. I can go down there for the day, not even for the day, for 3 hours.
Yep.
I can pack up my gear, go to the shops, buy the ingredients, go down to the beach, light a fire, cook a video, pack up, come home, have a shower, see the missus, play with the dog on the beach, and then go fishing in the afternoon.
Yeah, amazing.
It was lifestyle.
Yeah,
10 out of 10. I'd edit it the next day, and it'd be up, and I could do a video a week really easily.
Yeah, true.
Because
you had the access.
Kimberley was my backyard. Bard Creek was 45 minutes from my house, which is one of the most stunning places in the world. Like, I want to go catch a mud crab. I just hook the boat on. I'm in the water in an hour, door to door, and I go up the creek for an hour, catch 3 mud crabs, go cook them on the beach. I can do a catch and cook episode in, 3/4 of a day.
Sounds terrible.
Edit it the next day, and it's up. And I was like, this is amazing.
So why did you leave Broome?
We were only there for a year.
Okay.
So my wife is a doctor, and she got offered a really good job, and you should get a bit of a pay rise to move to Broome.
Yep.
So she got a pay rise, and we got a free house. So we rented our house out in Perth,
I'm sure you had to think about that long and hard. You're like, can we go tomorrow?
The reason for it was I was actually applying for a job in Broome as commercial manager of Broome Ports. And then she like mentioned it to one of her colleagues. Oh yeah, like, we might be moving to Broome. Is there any work up there? And they're like, oh, 100%. Like we're desperate for doctors up there.
Really?
And then they just made her an offer, and they were like, hey, are you still moving to Broome? And I was like, I didn't get the job. And so
I might just go fishing and.
I was like, oh, we could do it for a year before we have kids and stuff. And she's like, yeah, great idea. Like I'd love to move to Broome for a year. And then and then anyway, so she ended up getting the job, not me. So we were supposed to move for me, and I wasn't good enough.
And then you were unemployed and you lived in Broome.
And I was like, oh, I'll just do. She was like, oh, you got Fire to Fork. Like that's doing something. Like it was making a little bit of money.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, okay. Like I was like, if I lean on Fire to Fork and then go into tourism, that will make me money. And I spoke to people and they're like, yeah, we can give you this day rate. And I was like, that's mint. But we needed hardly any money.
Yeah. Well, if you're not paying for accommodation, then
A free house. She's on a good wicket because of the rural pay. We're renting out our house. I'm like, our mortgage was covered.
Yeah, beautiful.
And then the house was free. So I'm like, we've never been in a better financial situation. We didn't have kids. We'd already got married. We paid for all that. And I was like, well, we're actually going really well. And so I said to her, I was like, look, can I be really selfish? Can I lean on YouTube and try and make this my job over the next few months? And she was like, I think it's a great idea.
How good.
So I didn't have to take any sponsorships. I had no commercial, no, I wouldn't say no commercial obligations. I absolutely did. And I used to do a lot of photography work. That's how I was making money at the time.
Like product photography?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for anyone.
Oh,
I did
really?
shopping centres. I did a daycare.
Oh, okay. Just anything, yeah.
Any real estate, whatever. I was just a photographer for hire. So that was my day job. And because we were locked in, there aren't many photographers in Broome. So it was actually pretty good.
Yeah. You got like a somewhat of a closed catchment to work in.
I remember Cedar Summit, for example, they released these products and they were Kimberley red, ocean blue, and then like that Kimberley green scrub.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh my God, James Price Point's an hour away from you. We can't get up there to shoot it. Can you shoot our products at James Price Point? Because that's the exact colour scheme where this whole product range is about. And I was like, yes, and here is my bill.
I was going to say, name your price. It's quite serendipitous, one might say. How good. So would you say that's when your channel really started to fire? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was obviously already growing organically, but then when you started that full-time focus on it,
Yeah.
did it grow really quickly after that?
Yeah, it tripled that year.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I went from 13 to 40,000
right.
in a year. And because I wasn't taking proper sponsorships, I was saying no to everyone. And it meant I got offered a lot of things and I kind of got better idea of what you can get. And what it meant was that I got, at the end of the year, I kind of went, all right, let's have a look at all these different opportunities I've got. And there were some that just fitted perfectly, right? So like me doing a full paid GME sponsorship makes no sense.
No.
Because I cook. Like, what am I supposed to do? Hey, can you get...
Oh, yeah, I just remember we were supposed to be filming this whole podcast on radio.
Oh, yeah. Like we did with Blair.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, though. And that's why, we give you product when you need it.
Totally.
But we're never going to go, hey, you should start doing, a full paid ambassadorship for GMA. It doesn't make sense for us and it doesn't make sense for you.
Exactly. It doesn't fit. Zippo? Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Also...
It's in the name.
I was like... So I got offered a Zippo sponsorship and I was like, oh my God, this fits
Yes.
perfectly. And I was like... And also they were like, look, we've got this budget, blah, blah, blah. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, selfishly, I was like, who else are they going to go for? I'm the guy who lights a fire every episode.
They could do one of those like weird Serbian ASMR cooks, but they don't talk. So how are they going to do a brand mention?
Yeah. So I was like, this is, but like in their Australian budget, I was like, this is, I'm the channel that should do this. Like, this is the most perfect sponsorship. And then I remember Sam got pregnant and I was like, oh, actually, I really want a camper trailer for when we have kids. Yeah. And I mentioned that in an episode and I get a call from Cub a week later. And I was like, oh my God, there was a tab open on my computer.
Oh, really?
Looking at a Cub Frontier.
Amazing.
And I was like, I was playing all coy. I was like, well, had a lot of offers.
yeah.
I had 2 offers.
Yeah, like, the door, like the phone just keeps ringing up, people knocking on the door. So, like, let's talk about the Cub Frontier.
Yeah.
These are the options I would like.
I did actually have 2 offers on the table for campers.
Yep.
But Cub was the one I really wanted.
Australian made,
I was
Australian
like,
brand.
Australian made, Australian brand, and I was like, but also like the perfect layout. But the main thing for me was quick.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't want a rear fold, and I wanted it to be quick. And I was like, well, there's only one Australian made forward fold camper.
True.
The Cub Frontier.
I've not done any research on campers because I am vehemently opposed to towing one.
Yeah.
But at some point in my future, I no doubt will own one.
For sure. For sure.
It's just one of those things I'm still at that point of denial, and I'll enjoy that point for as long as I possibly can.
The thing is, I was towing already because I was always towing my boat or my number 5. So I like towing. I kind of what it meant was that I went from stacking things on top of each other to everything's on one level.
And being easy to access.
Yeah,
well,
everything's accessible.
And you're in an 80 for a long time, and I also am in an 80.
Yeah, and you know exactly what it's like.
Tetris.
And
it's pretty annoying.
Once you go to a number 5, even like just a box trailer on the back, and you're like, oh, there's nothing on top of anything.
Yeah, it just makes it easier.
Or like loading firewood. You're like, oh, just throw it on the trailer. Sweet.
Yeah. Not on the back seat or
on the roof. And what's on the roof? Oh, a swag.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool, I can do that.
Yeah,
but
totally.
If I've got the number 5 on the back, the swag's just in the trailer. So no, anyway, so I got that offer. So all of a sudden I had 2 like anchor sponsors.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's enough to like make a living, as well as like I obviously had products and things like that that I was selling. And then during 2020 I wrote the book.
Yeah, right.
So I got
Was it that long ago already?
Yeah, I released in 2021, August 2021. But so through 2020 and 2021, I finished writing the book in February 2021, which is the month I left Broome. We left Broome.
The last couple of years is just like a big blur for me. If
4
you'd
years
asked
ago.
me when that book was released, I was like, 2 years ago.
3 years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
3.5 years ago, yeah.
And now you're just about to release your second book.
Oh, it releases in 3 days, so yeah.
So by the time you see this, it will be available.
100%. It's available on the website now, and yeah, you can. If you get the premium one, it's signed. I'm over in Sydney, by the way, to go and sign 2,000 books.
Yeah.
So I've got 2,000 of the hard covers, which I just gave you one of.
Thank you.
And then the soft covers will, and for everyone asking for an individually signed one, they leave from Sydney. I can't fly over and sign it for you. You have to understand the quantities we're moving means it's impossible for it to be done from my house.
I was actually surprised to see that you were able to cook with both hands this morning, because I thought your hand would have been somewhat crippled after signing 2,000 books.
Well, you know what, it wasn't. The hand was actually all right. The hand, because it's mainly fingers, and that's fine. Like, you just like, it's all good. It's like no different to sort of typing for a long period of time. Shoulder.
Really?
Passing it to the guy behind me to put it back in the box.
True. You've like done a rotator cuff handing books to someone.
Yeah, it was this.
Yeah, right. So, just talking about the books, like, what was the driving force behind making the first book? Like, obviously, you were cooking, you were recording content. Was it you already had the recipes, and it was just a matter of kind of like, I guess, not formalizing it, but bringing it all together? It
was one of those things that I always said. Like, I'm like you, I've got ADHD, and I'm like sitting down. The idea of sitting down and writing a book is like hell.
Yes.
And I don't take any medication. I just know how my brain works.
Just raw dog it.
Just figured it out. And so I knew in my brain that I should probably write a cookbook. If I'm the cooking guy, you probably better have a cookbook. It kind of
comes with the territory,
and
right?
I never expected it to make any money. I just thought this is it was kind of like part of your resume.
Yeah.
You're like, what do you do? I make YouTube videos. And you're like, because I'm not a chef.
No.
At least if I'm an author, that kind of gives me a bit more credibility. Yeah. And then, so I wrote it, and I remember they gave the way writing a book works is they give you what's called an advance. So it was a small amount of money, and they go, all right, I'm just going to use a round figure. It's not the actual amount, but $5,000. Wasn't far off $5,000. It was not a lot of money for a year to write a book. And they go, here's $5,000. It's basically a loan. Now, if you don't if you don't make $5,000 worth of your cut of sales, they cop it, right?
Okay.
But your first $5,000 worth of sales
Goes straight
back to them.
Yeah, fair
So
enough.
you don't get it.
So what's that $5,000 for? Like research costs, photography, that sort of stuff?
No, they pay for the photography.
Okay.
I actually shot 95% of that book.
Okay.
They just basically did the cover. We did a 1-day shoot. Not even. We did a 3-hour shoot.
Yeah, okay.
For that book. That's it.
And that was up in the Kimberley, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the $5,000 is because you can't work as much because you're writing a book.
So you
It's
live
just-
off $5,000 for a year.
Pretty
You need to
much.
be very frugal.
So, yeah, like it's obviously not supposed to pay you for a year. It's supposed to just you're reducing.
It's like a
your-
signal of intent, right?
Pretty
Like,
much.
We're supporting you to make this thing
Yeah.
come to life.
Yeah. Needless to say, they didn't lose their $5,000.
No.
40,000 copies later. We're
Really?
good. Yeah.
That's unbelievable, man.
It's the best-selling outdoor cookbook in Australia.
That's
Still.
so good.
So wild. Fire cooking books were number 3 in the world.
Really?
Yeah. It's a guy named Derek Wolfe who's got about 6 million subscribers. He's got Over the Fire Cooking, which is unreal. And Derek's a legend. And then Guy Fieri,
Oh, really?
and then me.
You are in highly esteemed company.
Yeah. So pretty funny.
Is he still around?
Yeah, apparently. Vaguely.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Just the peroxide hair and speed dealer combo
So
is
funny.
like so good.
It's the funniest thing ever.
Loose.
But yeah, so that's the kind of that. So I want to say they're different. So I'm talking that's fire cooking. So number 3 in the world for fire cooking. But as far as outdoor cookbooks, I'm talking all outdoor cookbooks. So as in like we're talking like your barbecue, pitmaster books, all that kind of stuff. That's what I was been number 1 in for 2 years.
Really?
Yeah.
So that includes all your like barbecue cooking.
Yeah, and this is per year, by the way. So this is not in total because there are some books have sold 100,000 copies, but it's over a 20-year period.
Ah, right.
Yeah, whereas
okay.
mine's only been 3.5.
Pretty impressive, dude.
Yeah.
So was that a local publishing house? That?
Yeah, Sydney.
Yeah, right.
Actually, yeah, they were originally based in what's that hippie town?
Nimbin?
No, the other one, Byron.
Yeah, okay.
Based in Byron. Yeah. And now they're based nowhere. So
how did you connect with them?
they just got in touch, and the guy actually used to work for Full Drive Action.
Oh,
He was a writer for them, and then he was a caravan writer and travel writer and all this stuff, and they had a couple of other books going, but he has this very clever framework for what will make a successful book, and there are 3 parts to it. It needs to be unique, so it needs to be something that isn't just generic. It can't just be another, barbecue book.
yep,
So fire, weird, unique.
yep,
Fire cooking, you need to be an expert in the area. You can't be like Graham Cahill or Sean writing a fire cooking book.
Yep.
Because yes, they've done it, but they're not an expert in that. They're an
Yep.
expert in something else.
yes.
It needs to be, what's the third one? I can't bloody remember. But those were the 2 main ones. It was like unique, and you need to be the specialist in that area.
Yep.
And I was like, well, okay, well that kind of fits. And he was like, yep, you fit those 2. It's like there are other ones like a travel guide for Kimberley, and it's like there's no other specific travel guide for the Kimberley, so unique. And the other one is he's an expert travel guide.
There you go.
So,
So it's like the recipe for success, right?
yeah. Whereas if you, particularly if you're writing, like if you're an expert chef and you're writing a travel guide, it doesn't work. And if you're an expert traveller but you're writing a cooking book, it doesn't work.
And that's, I suppose, the difference between, like, maybe you could say traditional free-to-air television and authoring books, right?
Yeah.
Because there's always those weird crossovers in TV where they've got,
Yeah.
like, Jackie Lambie on some, like, survival show, and you're like,
What is going on here?
What? Now, I'm not suggesting she's a television star, but,
Yeah.
it's always kind of weird. With TV, I think they get away with it, but with writing a book, you can't fake it, right?
Yeah, you got to be it.
So just to be clear, you said they reached out to you, but
Yeah.
so you'd already decided to write the book, or did they prompt you?
I had always said, hypothetically, I should write a book. I was never going to do it.
Yeah.
I needed a kick up the arse. I needed someone to put money in my pocket to put pressure on me.
Yep.
I needed that pressure. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh shit, now I've got a financial obligation.
Yeah.
And an actual obligation to write
Yeah,
this.
there's a third party involved. I need to deliver.
I can't let them down.
Yeah.
So that was really important, I think, because otherwise it would have been like, oh, you should write a book. I don't know how to write a book. I write recipes. I take photos. I had photos. I had recipes, but I didn't have a book. And they were like, okay, this is how you write a book. Like, we need this guide, this guy. So he's like telling me, like, you need a guide to this because this doesn't make. He's reading it and going, this doesn't make sense without a guide on this. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. All right, I'll write a guide on that.
So like a technique guide to then feed back into a particular recipe.
Exactly. Or like, I'm like, oh, put it on like medium heat, and he's like, what the hell's medium heat in a fire? And I'm like, good question.
Well, it depends on the wood, right?
Depends on the wood. It depends on the height. So I've got seconds. How many seconds can you hold your hand over it at this height above the fire?
Yeah.
And there's a whole guide to that in both books. And I was like, that's really good. So I was like, it needs to be graphically displayed. So we need to like make a fire, get it to low heat. That's low heat. And I add more wood. And it was like, this is medium heat. And I added more wood. And I was like, this is high heat. And this is extreme heat.
Yeah, okay.
I was like, okay, so like end of a sear of a steak, I'm like, you want extreme heat? And it's just like,
yeah.
And I'm like, you can't hold your hand above it.
yeah. You're on fire.
Yeah,
at
this
point.
is hot as hell.
Yeah,
Like, as
right.
hot as you want, kind of thing.
So you've got, obviously you grew up with your mum being a chef. So
Yeah.
you were exposed to someone that knew their way around a kitchen and
Yeah.
knew how to cook. But I would imagine that at the level you're at now, like you've done a lot of research, or is it trial and error? Like what's been the process to get to where you are now?
Heaps of research and I just do it a lot.
Yeah.
I cook a lot.
So just practice and
Just
trial
practice
and error.
and just get better at it.
Yeah.
I don't practice my recipes before they're on camera, ever. I'll try a sauce or something, but I won't actually cook. I like people to see me raw dog it on camera. There are no second takes. I mean, you just saw me film.
Yep.
It's just in a row. I don't script anything. I just try and cook it. And the reason I do that is because I like to show my mistakes, because I like to show the problem-solving process of fixing that kind of stuff, because it happens all the time. People screw things up. So if I'm like, oh, I forgot salt, I'm like, what have I got? Oh, soy sauce. That's salty. That'll do. And I'm like, yeah, it's a bit weird, but like, oh, maybe I'll try it, you know. So I like to show that process of like forgetting things and dropping things, and like the fact that when I dropped that bit of bacon in the ash, and I was like, that doesn't matter because ash is not crunchy. That's interesting.
Yes.
Because ash
and I
isn't
guess it
crunchy.
adds to the authenticity as well. And like, I mean, I've known you for a long time now, but
Yeah.
I watch all your content. I love cooking and I love camping. So like, it makes sense that I like your content, but I love the authenticity of it. Like, you burn shit.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Oh, well,
oh, I burnt it. It's like,
fire to floor.
I can relate to that. Or yeah, when you throw something on the ground by accident, or you know, you forget stuff, and it resonates with people, because anyone that's spent a lot of time touring camping, like, you forget stuff, things get burnt, the fire's burning hotter because it's windy or whatever.
Oh
or like,
my
you
God,
know, like,
that's the worst.
you just there's so many, I guess, moving dynamics. It's not a very sanitized studio kitchen
No.
where there's like, oh, we've cooked it 4 times before we're actually filming it. Like it's so raw and it's so real, and I think that's a big part of why you're so popular.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think that the authenticity comes through, because I'm not a good actor. Like, my face has subtitles. Like, you know what I'm thinking. Like,
That's an ADHD thing, because I'm the same. Like, people are like, why are you angry? I'm like, I'm not angry. And they're like, you look like you're going to kill someone. I'm like, I'm pretty angry. I thought I was playing it cool, but man,
like, I'm not cool.
Sorry about that. Yeah. I don't play poker because I would be terrible
I'd be
at
so
it.
bad at poker.
I just don't even try because I know
No.
I'd suck.
No.
So I mean, obviously you're learning as you go. Where do you get the inspiration for your recipes?
Good chefs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love watching high-end chefs, and like Andy, for example, he puts out so much content. So it's so good. I'm like, man, he puts out nearly daily content.
He's hard to keep up with, hey?
Dude, it's
like
so
whenever
good.
I open YouTube, there is Andy Cook's content for me to watch.
I've 100% stolen recipes off him, and I've admitted it on camera. I'm like, I stole this recipe from Andy, but this is how you do it on fire.
Yeah.
And it's mint, like, and he's all about it.
Yeah.
So I like to watch high-end chefs, and then I like to simplify it and make it fire compatible, because that's the thing. It's like, there are certain recipes where Italian recipes, for example, carbonara. There aren't 2 recipes for it. It's the recipe. This is how you make carbonara. You're like, you use this ingredient, you use this much of it.
You do not use cream. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And like, yes, you're supposed to use guanciale, but like, you know, okay, here are the backups and stuff like that. But So for that kind of thing, I'm like, I don't even write the recipe really.
It's just a recipe.
It's just the recipe. But what I do is I teach people how to do it on fire. I'm like, this needs to be on medium heat. This needs to be on low heat. This is how you mix it in. Keep this warm. It's those sorts of things. And I'm like, this is how you do that in the bush.
And it is hard. Like, I fancy myself as a reasonably accomplished home cook.
Yeah.
Like, I can make food that's good. And for the same reason as you. I like eating good food, so I learned how to cook. Cooking on fire is like a whole different ball game, right?
Yep.
Like, it just adds that other dimension of difficulty.
Yeah. The most common question I get is, what's a good one to start with? And I always say, something with water. So as in like pasta or something like that. Because
that
water can only get to 100 degrees.
Yeah.
And the worst thing that happens is it boils over and it just puts the fire out a little bit. And you're like, oh, that's kind of turned itself down.
Self-solving problem.
I'm like, you can't burn water. So
Yeah.
they make pastas.
Yeah.
That's, make a simple pesto pasta or something like that. And, it's a good way to kind of get your eye in of like, how do I get this off the fire? And, hold on. Yeah.
Bless you.
Yeah.
So, I fully lost my train of thought because of that sneeze. It just sent me. I was like, oh, that was a powerful sneeze.
It had been building for a bit.
Yeah, and it's like, brain off. Oh my God. You know how we were talking before we started filming about like never knowing the true meaning of sleep deprivation until you have a newborn baby?
Yes.
I am experiencing the effects of that currently.
How old is yours?
6 months old.
Mate, you are in the thick of it.
Yes. I think I slept for about 3 hours last night, and it was broken sleep. She's got a tooth coming through the bottom of her gum.
Oh,
and
that's the best.
I imagine that would be quite painful.
Yeah. And they never let you know, though.
No, really quiet. And
just lovely.
Far out. So
I tell you what, dad hack. If your kids don't like taking Panadol to help with, teething and stuff like that,
all right, wait for it.
what's it called? The suppository Panadol.
Up the butt.
Up the butt.
Yeah, right.
Change the nappy or whatever.
That's not what I was expecting. I was definitely expecting you to say something that involved some sort of brown spirit.
No. Suppository Panadol.
Butt Panadol.
And it comes with like a kit, and it's like it's already pre-lubed. They don't feel it, but if they're like crying and they're like, done.
Wild.
And it absorbs faster.
Very educational.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
I didn't know it existed, and
I've
then my
heard
wife
that,
was
but
like,
in
do
a
this.
different continuum.
Yeah.
That things get absorbed faster that way.
Yep. Anyway, so that's...
Right, so
that's
cooking.
A useful tip for new dads or mums or whoever.
This is turning out to be a very educational conversation for everyone concerned.
Not a doctor, but married to a doctor.
No, I have no idea about anything medical. Luckily, though, my daughter does enjoy the taste of the Panadol, the little liquid Panadol, so it's good.
Yeah.
Anyway, one thing I was going to ask you. So, you've done a lot of camping with a lot of different people, as have I. I don't want to generalise too much here. I'm sure there are people that take great pride in cooking good food over fire or in the bush, even if it's on induction or gas or whatever. A lot of my mates, some of our mutual mates, Blair, thin beef sausages, white bread, 2-minute noodles. I think that there is so much to be gained by spending that little bit of extra time and effort out in the bush to make good food. Right?
I completely agree. And I am not against noodles. One of my favourite quick meals is mee goreng with steak on top or salmon. Yeah. Like unreal. So good. And ideally with an egg as well. Like cook a steak and egg in a pan, mee goreng in a pot. Mate, dude, that is like, it's a 5-minute meal.
I do it at home.
Yeah, I do it at home as well.
With the nong shim noodles, steak, and a fried egg.
Dude.
Chop up some spring onions, and it's like, all of a sudden, it's a really nice meal.
It's a really nice meal.
Like, you can make it not shit, right?
Yeah, totally.
And I guess that's what I was getting at. And I think this is another thing that I reckon you've had an effect on the Australian camping community, because so many people watch your gear, and like, I think you're making people understand that it's not that hard.
I hope so. Because
like, you can make it hard. You can make it really hard, especially if you drink too many beers before you start cooking.
Exactly, yeah. But no, I mean, I'd like to think it's had an impact, because I'm passionate about like eating better
Yes.
and cooking better, and my mates eating Campbell's man cans and that kind of garbage. Just like, I was like, mate, this is so crap.
Braised steak and onion in a tin.
Oh man,
It's just dog food. I wouldn't even feed it to my dog.
no. Or like, but just people would just bring a cup of noodles. I'm like, okay, just little tiny bit more, little tiny bit more effort, and that is mint.
Yeah.
Like,
Even what you made today, right?
yeah,
Like, that was an epic spread.
yeah.
In terms of,
that was ridiculous though. That could feed like 8 people. And
yeah, not just me and Dak, and you had like 2 mouthfuls. yeah. But I guess nothing that you did today was technically complex in any way. What was the hardest thing you did? Like, grate a potato?
Yeah, probably making that hash brown. Grating potatoes, squeezing the liquid out of it, and then chucking it in a pan with butter.
Like, it's actually easy.
Yeah.
So I think something you said earlier, when we first started speaking, was around you get a lot of enjoyment, or I assume you still do, around the planning process.
Yeah, I do.
And I think that's the key, right?
Yeah.
Like, just taking that extra little bit of time before you go
Yeah.
to think about what you're going to eat
Yeah.
and what you're going to need.
I also like to make it an activity. You know, when you go camping, you got to have activities, right?
Yeah.
You got to have something to do. And so
Yeah. Or you just end up getting day drunk and then,
you're like, well, I'm useless now.
Yeah.
But so you go. One of my favourites is like, I like to make an elaborate lunch.
Yes.
As opposed to like, if you're at camp for the day.
Yeah.
Elaborate lunch for me is like my favourite thing, because then at dinner, like at night time, you're like, whatever, I'll just make something kind of simple.
It's also heaps easier in daylight.
That's it. Yeah. And then, what I'll do also is, if we're there all day, I like to do something slow cooked for dinner. So you can start it at 2.
Yep.
And then by the time you're ready to serve it, you're like, cool, we've got pulled pork, let's have burger, like let's have pulled pork rolls. And you're like, now all I need is a roll and some of that slaw.
Yeah.
Boom,
And then it is an easy meal.
Then it is an easy meal.
Yeah.
And it hasn't actually been complicated. Yes, it took 4 hours to cook, but you sat there and drank beers while it cooked for 4 hours. That's it. Like,
yeah, and I mean, that's something I've learnt the hard way. Like, let's do a camp oven meal, and then you start at, like, you light the fire at 7.
Oh, yeah.
And
no,
you're like,
can't wait.
oh, it's going to be a long night.
Yeah.
So, like, camp oven cooking is fantastic if you've got a good fire going, like,
Yes.
at midday.
Yeah, so it has to be cold weather.
Yeah.
Because like, if
It's not a summer thing.
if it's
no.
35 degrees, I'm not sitting by a camp oven for 4 hours. That sucks.
Yeah.
I've done that in the Kimberley with Ronnie, and it was 48 where we were, and I did pulled pork like an idiot.
Blair and I did it last year on New Year's Eve. It was like 40 degrees where we were camping, and we did a roast chook and a roast pork in camp ovens over a raging fire, and it was disgusting. Like, it was unpleasant, right?
Yeah.
The food was fantastic, but it was unpleasant.
Yeah.
It's a winter thing, right?
Yeah, so like if it's summer and I'm cooking over a fire, I'm like, let's do burgers, smashies.
What's the minimal amount of time I can spend over the fire?
Exactly. I like to sit around a fire at night, like when it's cooled down. But I'm like, I want to do something that doesn't require an established fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just heat source.
Yeah,
this stage,
totally.
you know?
Just a sear, right?
Yeah. I'm like, let's just get a pan on it, because it doesn't matter if it's a dirty kind of, like flamey. It doesn't have to be coals. It just has to be heat. So yeah, that's what I'll try and do. Like hot and fast. The steaks are great, like steak sangers and things like that. You like tuk, 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 slice up a steak, sear it, slice it up, chuck it in your thing with some, relish and salad and whatever, and you're like, mint, this is great.
No, I think it's really good, man. And I have no doubt in my mind that you've definitely had an impact in terms of people's attitudes towards camp cooking. Like, you've definitely made a difference to the way I approach it.
Oh, cheers, mate. Thank you. I don't think about it very much, but sometimes I notice it in the industry. Particularly there's another show that you're on sometimes.
Yes.
That you do some filming things on.
Yeah, when I just go and break everything I own. Yeah, it's great.
I have noticed in several episodes, I'm like, that's my recipe.
Ah, good. Good.
And also, I know for a fact that some of those presenters have said, oh, this is from Harry.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they're not allowed to say it fight for it.
No. You were actually brought up on the most recent trip, and everyone spoke very highly of you for what you do. So no bullshit there. Yeah, those boys fully respect what you guys do, and
I get on with all
do.
of them too. I get on really well with all those boys.
Yeah. But what's interesting about Sean is his inspiration for cooking is his mum.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
his mum was the one that taught him how to cook, and a lot of his recipes that he doesn't steal from you come from his mum. So,
Yeah.
it's...
No, Graham's the thief. Graham and Jock are the thieves.
Well, Jock needs all the help he can get.
Oh, no. My poor nephew.
Yeah, it's so weird. If he was born in WA, then it would fully make sense. Like
Yeah, me and
Graham,
Graham. Yeah.
Jock, like
Yeah.
weird love child thing. It all adds up.
Yeah.
But you know who the surprise, the dark horse was in Tassie for me? Jesse Gleeson,
Can the boy cook?
the winch trucker. Out of nowhere. He always talks about how he can't cook. On one of the many occasions I completely destroyed my car, was in a really bad mood one night. We were camped on a track called the Mile of Mud.
Yeah.
I was not interested in cooking. I had plenty of food to cook, and I just started deleting beers because I had the shits. Jesse cooked me an amazing meal. It was
Well
beautiful.
done, Jesse.
I was very surprised at him. So he's the dark horse. I think he just pretends that he doesn't know how to cook, so he doesn't have to get roped into it.
Well done, mate. I actually met Jesse for the first time recently. He's such a nice guy.
Yeah, he's a
I've
great
been
dude.
chatting to him for a while, but like I'd never actually met the bloke.
Yeah.
And I reckon Jock and Jesse, I mean, I've known Graham and Sean for years and years and years, but Jock and Jesse are two of the nicest blokes.
Yeah, they're just good dudes.
They're
eh?
just good dudes. Like, and what you see is exactly what you get.
Yeah.
In fact, what you see is not as good as what you get.
Yeah, it's a toned down version. And in terms of like passion for 4-wheel drive vehicles, you cannot find two blokes who are more passionate about it.
Unmatched.
Yeah.
Like they are. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, that you actually like, because they obviously have their commercial stuff they have to do, but that's like a version of these two blokes. But when you sit down with them for a beer, you're like, oh mate, you are.
Yeah, the real deal. And when they're not filming 4-wheel drive content, they're out 4-wheel driving for fun or racing or building stuff in the shed. Like they're both so passionate about it. And for me, like, I like driving cars. I'm not mechanically minded. I'm not good at fixing them. I'm good at breaking them.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely
Very
not
talented.
a highly experienced 4-wheel driver. I don't claim to be a good driver. What I've learnt from those two, just from spending time with them, is unbelievable. Like they're both so knowledgeable. For young guys, they know a lot.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
And there's it's no surprise that the cooking segments on those shows are very popular.
Yeah.
People want to be told how to cook, right?
Everyone has to eat.
Yeah.
Everyone, like, it's something that 100% of
Except
people.
Endak.
Endak has the biggest appetite. It's the funniest thing.
Yeah.
He can
That's
eat.
what makes it funny.
He can eat so much.
Oh my.
I remember
That's for Bo.
I remember him going to the pub in Billina or whatever, Billina in the Flinders, and his literal question was, "What's the biggest meal you have?
Really?
Like, what's the most filling?"
Not what's the best. What's the biggest volume of food
just
I can
literally
consume?
biggest volume of food. He hadn't eaten all day.
Yeah, true.
Because he'd broken his rangy, unsurprisingly. And yeah, he's just like, how much can I get on a plate? Like, I don't care what it costs. Just like, greatest volume.
I appreciate that. So to take a little bit of a different turn here, 4-wheel driving. When I first came across you online, I don't even know how. I think it might have been the Fire That Talks. And I will let you in on a little secret. When I came up with the concept of doing a podcast, I was umming and ahhing whether I shot them outside or in a studio. Being the outer side and being focused on the outdoors, it made sense to shoot them outdoors. As you would know, that adds a degree of technical complexity with lighting conditions, weather,
The whole
ambient noise, everything that could possibly go wrong. So
Yep.
I've made my life more difficult, but absolutely your Fire to Talk stuff was a big part of me deciding to shoot in this format
Nice. Oh, good to
because
hear.
I liked consuming it.
Yeah.
They were easy to consume, right? It was like a couple of people sitting around having a chat.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of...
And so the people listening without seeing us, we are outside by a creek.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the interesting point was when I started, I assumed that everyone would listen to the audio versions and very few people would watch the videos.
Yeah.
But it's the complete inverse of that.
Really? Because I never watch podcasts.
5 times the volume in terms of outright viewers than audio downloads, which is quite phenomenal. But then
There you go.
I watched all your Fire to Talks.
I've always said I need to bloody upload them to like Spotify or something like to make them podcasts. Cause
Easy enough to do, man. Just
I
render them
need
out
to
as
do
an
it.
MP3 and
I just
do
need
it.
to do it. Like you know.
So what I was getting at was I came across you and you had a Maroon 80 series.
I did, yep.
Affectionately known as...
Brick.
Yeah, brilliant name.
Brick the 80.
Anchorman, right?
Anchorman, exactly.
Fantastic. So you've said, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not really like, you don't call yourself a four-wheel driver per se.
Not at all.
You just use a four-wheel drive for access, right?
I'm a tourer. Like, I like camping.
Yeah.
I like camping, and the best way to get to great campsites is in a four-wheel drive.
So it's just a tool.
Just a tool. I'm not passionate about wheeling at all. In fact, if there's an easy way and a hard way, I'll take the easy way every time.
Yeah.
I have a very capable four-wheel drive because I like to go to dumb places and I tow a big caravan.
Of course.
So my capable four-wheel drive is because, I like to be able to not get stuck, get to places easily, and also just not put too much pressure on my car so that it becomes unreliable. I think a more capable car at 20%, of its limit is going to last a lot longer than a stock car being absolutely thrashed.
Absolutely correct, man.
Yeah.
I mean, like lockers just enable you to drive slower and break less stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is what I love. Unlike muddies, just give you 10 times more grip.
Yeah.
We bloody buggered this car up, buggered the caravan up partially, trying to drive up wet grass. If I was in my Prado, with my much bigger, heavier caravan, I would have driven that, no worries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, right? Like, it's only by experiencing that stuff that you start to realise what you need, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's a good way to do it is experiencing it, driving it in a pretty stock car, realising the shortcomings, and then, doing it as you need it rather than going, I need all of this stuff at the start.
Unless you are very experienced, in which case, you know what you need.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're going from a, twin-locked car on 35s and you're just selling it because it's old, and then you're buying a new car, just put the lockers and the 35s in, because otherwise you're wasting your time. Like, if you've got the money to do it. Like
I will never own another four-wheel drive that is not twin-locked.
Oh, me neither.
Ever.
No.
Just, as I said, because...
Actually, I need to put a front locker in my Prado badly. But I've got a new car on order.
Yeah, nice.
And that arrives in some months. And, that's immediately getting twin lockers.
Yeah. Just makes things easier, safer, more controlled.
Yep.
Just good.
Yep, just much better.
So, you said a couple of 80 series.
Yeah, I did, yep.
Which...
I had 100 and then 280s.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So how did you get into that in the first place? Like, did you grow up camping and four-wheel driving?
Yep. So my old man was in the Air Force in Zimbabwe. My dad's Zimbabwean.
Yeah, right.
And he was conscripted. He then illegally immigrated to Australia. So my dad is an illegal immigrant. He had a fake passport, the whole lot. He bribed people. He slept with people. He did all kinds of things to get into Australia illegally. And it turns out the statute of limitations is 10 years. After 10 years, you just go in, you go, this is a fake passport. I've got my Australian one. It's all good. Cheers, mate.
Really?
Yeah. So it's all completely above board. I'm not like...
You're not outing him.
I'm not fucking grassing on my dad.
It's like, do I need to cut this out?
But long story short, he used to do 6 weeks in the bush and 6 weeks in town when he was in the Air Force. And he was like, I'm never going camping again, because he hated it. He spent 6 weeks in the bush in crap conditions, eating crap rations, hating life. And he's like, so when he came to Australia, he was like, no, I'm never going camping again. It was my mum who was like, we need to take the kids camping.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, crap. Anyway, he's like, wait a minute, I can have fire, because we're not trying to be stealthy, and like, I can have a beer and we can actually have pretty good food. And this is pretty good.
Camping
actually.
is fun. Yeah, when you're not forced to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So he suddenly was like, actually, this is really good. And so they set up a ute really well, and we always ate really well. We went to great places. We never used to go to like caravan parks or anything like that. It was proper like remote bush camping.
Yeah.
And then of course the way to get there was 4-wheel driving. But again, the car was a tool.
Yeah.
But as a kid, I loved that stuff. Kids 4-wheel driving. Oh my god, best fun thing ever.
Go through the mud.
Let's cross the river. Yeah, and he's like, I don't want to break my car, and I'm like, go. So, I grew up eating well and camping well.
Yeah, and so then the logical vehicle for you was to buy a 4-wheel drive so you could continue to do it yourself?
Yeah, I've had lots of them. So first was a 92 Hilux Surf 2.4 turbo diesel, maroon. Then I had a Jeep Cherokee XJ Limited. That was mint.
Nice.
Then I had a 98 Jackaroo 3.5 V6. That thing was so fast. 3-inch lift and 33s.
Yeah, a bit scary.
Like, so fun.
Good sand car.
Oh, the best sand car I've ever owned.
Yeah.
Oh, no, the Prado's better, actually. Now with the tune, the Prado's better.
Slightly different.
Yeah, slightly different
scale.
price point.
Yeah.
150 grand versus like 6 grand.
Yeah, definitely. Bang for buck, it'd be hard to go past that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Then I had, then I bought a petrol 100 series,
Yeah, okay.
105. That was 3-inch lift and 33s,
6-cylinder.
6-cylinder, thirsty as.
Yeah, FZ, baby.
Yep. The old FZ.
Yeah.
That was
They hammer, but they use a lot of fuel.
30 litres per 100.
Yeah. It's like you might as well have an LS at that point.
Oh, and didn't even have power. Like,
Yeah.
they're just thirsty and slow.
Yeah, it's like a bucket with a hole in it, eh?
Yeah. The most impressive fuel consumption I ever had was 60 litres per 100 on the beach.
On the sand, yeah.
That was good. Then I had an HDJ 80,
Yeah,
which
nice.
I drowned. And then I had brick. And then I got the Prado, and soon a new car.
So the change from what I would say is all like pretty sort of old school, traditional wheeling cars, give or take,
yeah.
even though you weren't doing hardcore stuff, but
Yeah.
you know, solid axles,
Oh, brick was a Sahara, so it's twin locked. Like, a
yeah,
whole lot,
so
you know.
so pretty hardcore. To then a Prado. What was the motivating factor for you?
My friend was killed in an A series.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So beautifully decked out car. 33s, 2.5-inch lift. It was all BP51s, no roof rack, low, sleek, immaculate condition. Everything was done to it. Towing a small box trailer. So it was my mate's car, and his missus was driving, and oncoming truck, and around a corner, oversized load. She clipped the gravel. No stability control, no ABS, no curtain airbags. They flipped. She smacked her head on the pillar, and it killed her. If there was curtain airbags, if there was stability control, if there was any safety features,
Yep.
she would have survived. That's why I won't drive a 79. I will never own a 79 unless they dramatically improve that. There are two airbags in the 79. You know, weirdly enough, 79 single cab actually has curtain airbags,
Really?
and the dual cab doesn't. Doesn't make any sense to me. That's why I won't drive one. They're not safe enough, and so I just went, "What the hell am I doing?" Also, that car was costing me a fortune to keep on the road, and I was like, "Look, I trust myself driving an 80 series. What I don't trust, and my wife won't take any offence to this, is my wife driving a loaded 80 series.
Yeah. Because it's different.
It's different. I've got 15 years of experience driving over like big, heavy, tippy cars.
Yeah.
If she doesn't pay attention, she doesn't know how to correct it.
Yeah.
If she gets in a tank slapper, she doesn't know how to recover it. And I need to be able to share drive. I can't drive all the time. So, and also I like to be able to share with friends. And I don't feel safe with my friends driving my 80 series, towing a boat or towing a trailer or towing a camper trailer or whatever. So I went for something safe, modern, reliable, with enough grunt to do the things I want to do. The 200 series was on the market at the time. The 300 wasn't yet. The 200 series, like the features in it sucked. It didn't have radar cruise. It didn't have Apple CarPlay. It didn't have, and you're paying 130 grand for it. And I was like, this is not good. So I paid 80 grand for a Prado, and it was way better. But no, it's been the best car I've ever owned by a country mile. But yeah, it was all about not just the safety features, but ease of driving.
They are a lot easier to drive than
Oh my
modern
God.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
And like, I'm interested because I daily drive an 80.
Yeah.
And it's something I think about. Like, there is zero safety features in an 80 series.
Yeah.
The only safety feature is my ability to avoid or get out of uncomfortable situations. That is literally it, right?
Completely. Exactly. The safety features sit between the seat and the steering wheel. Like, that's it.
And, you know, I'm driving a Ranger Wild Track at the moment, a work car, and as much as I got here and was complaining and yelling abuse at it because it wouldn't stop beeping,
It does beep a lot.
it beeps a lot, but it's so easy to drive.
Yeah.
Like, you do 1,000 Ks in that and you're just like, whatever. Like you do 1,000 Ks in the 80 and like...
You know about it.
You know about it. And I've got really nice seats and sound deadening and nice carpet and every bush in the car has been replaced and it's got good suspension and it's well set up, but like you still got to drive it, right? It's a solid axle car with a big lift and 35s. It wanders.
Yeah. That's the wandering is, I think, the biggest thing. You go over a bump and you're like,
yeah.
And so when you have people who aren't used to driving them, they try and correct all the time. You're like, no, you got to let it wander.
Yeah, just let it do its thing, right?
It's okay, like chill. It'll like it goes left and then it goes right again. Like,
and I think this is a big part of the problem I have with the Ranger. I was saying how it keeps telling me to put my hands on the wheel because I got really soft hands on the wheel because I'm used to the 80 just driving where it wants to go. And it's like the new cars don't like that. They want you to hold the car. They want you to hold the wheel. Apparently that's an issue.
That's actually one of the things I like about the Prado is it doesn't have... You can turn all that stuff off.
Yeah.
And so I literally drove out of the dealership and I turned around and I came back and I was like, how do I turn all this crap off?
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, here you go. And they turned it all off and it's never been turned back on.
Yeah, so you can't do that with the Fords.
That's what I really dislike. And the D-Max as well.
If I'd known about that, that would have been a deal breaker. I would have bought a different model car.
Yep. So I'm driving a GR Sport Hilux at the moment. You can turn all that stuff off and it stays off.
Toyota's always been good like that, right?
Yeah.
Like they have the features there, but you can choose to not use them if you would like.
Yeah. Remember even Graham saying, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but screw it. He had the D-Max and he was like, he goes, the most annoying thing about driving the D-Max, he really likes the car,
Yeah.
genuinely loves that car. But he's like, the most annoying thing is getting in and needing an IT degree to, which he actually has, funnily enough.
What's a match made in heaven there?
Needing an IT degree to turn all the stuff off so that the car just drives. Although, to be fair, he needs safety features. He did roll it.
I was going to say, he rolled it on the road, right?
Yeah. Listening to Taylor Swift.
I
And
don't know.
if you actually think that Graham is pretending about liking Taylor Swift, he's not. He loves Taylor Swift. He can tell you everything about every album, every song.
Really?
And, oh my God! Like he's
hyper enthusiast.
Like he's a proper Swiftie. Like I've heard him just nerd out. He's like, oh my God, and that new album, and it's like the feeling in this. Like he is like.
I love that.
He's obsessed.
But
He
you know
loves
what?
Taylor Swift.
I think, like, I've spent a bit of time with Graham, and what I love the most about him is he's just himself. He does not care what you think or what anyone thinks.
No.
He's just himself because he likes it, and that's what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And, even with, I've noticed lately, as you would know, Graham's right into his bow hunting, right?
Yeah.
And hunting content on social media can be controversial. It can work against you. I love that Graham just posts hunting content.
Couldn't care
because that's what he wants to do. It's what he's passionate about.
Yep.
I think it's so good.
He's like, no, this is me.
He's just himself.
Yep.
It's something that I think a lot of people could take some notes from in terms of not pretending to be someone they're not online.
You know what? Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I don't need to mention any names. We can just leave it at that, and you can fill in the blanks for yourself and decide.
But you know what I love? I love that we all know that Sean loves fishing.
Yes.
And Graham loves touring.
Yes.
I love that Off-Grid exists.
Yes.
And I love that that Sean has finally done fishing stuff. Like that Cape York thing.
He's been trying for a long time. He's been trying for a long time.
I know.
And I think there's going to be a bit more of that.
I literally messaged him as soon as he put it up, and I was
One
like,
with Sammy?
Yeah.
It was so sick.
It was so. I was like, dude, this is infectious.
Yeah.
And he was like, it was sick.
You
finally,
could not find two blokes that froth fishing more than Sam and Sean. Like, that's all they want to do. And it came across.
It's so obvious.
Like I'm just jealous that I wasn't there.
Yeah.
It looked like such a wild
riot.
trip. Yeah.
What a riot. Like, and they're just like, you know what? The thing about fishos is they need pain. They're like, if I'm not suffering, I'm not fishing hard enough.
I'm a fisho, and I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Yesterday morning before work, I got up at 4:30 in the morning to go rock fishing. There was a decent swell running up the coast. I looked at the weather forecast and went, I probably shouldn't go rock fishing by myself, which I do all the time. So, all the things ticking all the boxes.
Yeah. Responsible.
So I went solo rock fishing in a big nor'east swell. Had to find the one spot near my place where I could actually fish without dying. And I fished hard for 3 hours and did not get a single bite.
Yeah.
I changed setups, I moved spots, I moved into more dangerous spots. I caught one fish after 3 hours, and it made it all worth it. And then I got a photo of it that I put up on Instagram yesterday with a big smile on my face, and I wasn't putting that on. I was happy.
Yeah.
And I get home, and my wife goes, "Did you have a good fishing trip?" "No, it was shit, but I caught a fish, so I'm going to do it again."
Yeah.
Like, you're right.
But the more
We're
you
suckers
suffer-
for punishment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, fishing's hard, man.
Danny, like,
Oh.
if Danny's not suffering, he's not
Yeah, but he's
enjoying
a
it.
fly fisherman, so that's just like a whole other realm of weirdness.
Yeah.
Like, you're making it so much more difficult than it needs to be.
I know.
Just use a spinning reel, for God's
I'm like,
sake.
did you know you can get into your car from like the door? You don't actually have to climb through the boot.
Oh, man. Danny shot some commercial content for me at the start of the year for
Yeah.
GMA. And just so happened that he chose to shoot right next to a
I know.
stream in the snowy mountains that may or may not hold trout. And it's no surprise that whenever there was some downtime while we were waiting for the perfect light,
Yeah.
that he was in his waders in the stream throwing silly little bits of fluff around. And then he catches this trout that would have been, I don't know, 13 centimetres long. And he
Bait.
was so happy. I'm like, I've seen pilchards bigger than that, dude. And he's got like $15,000 worth of
Yeah.
trout clothing on. I'm
He's
like,
so funny.
just to catch that little thing.
Is that it?
Yeah, is that
And you're
it?
not even eating it.
It's just such a weird thing.
So I fish to eat.
Yeah.
I'm not a fisher. Like, I like catching fish, but I don't love fishing. So
Yeah,
Whereas,
okay.
like-
Because I do a bit of sport fishing.
Yeah,
I'll
okay.
do catch and release fishing. I also, if I don't have fish in the freezer, I'll be killing them. Like,
Yeah,
I love eating fish and I love catching fish to feed my
Yeah.
family. But I can get into the sport fishing, fly fishing. It just looks too hard.
I've done it, and I've caught trout on a fly. Nah. Nah, I'm out.
Nah.
I spent like a whole day doing it, and I was at the end of it, and I was like, nah.
You know, like when something is challenging and thus it gives you like an intrinsic reward through being challenging. Fly fishing is not that.
Nah. Which I don't fish around Perth because I don't have a
Just
boat
fishing
anymore.
pressure.
Yeah, I don't have a boat anymore, so I can't go and get the good stuff, which is offshore. And rock fishing in Perth sucks. But also, it's because I used to live in the Kimberley with a boat.
Yeah, so
I
it's like
used to-
spoiled you.
I used to get out in the boat. Oh my god, during COVID, so no one's fishing because there are no tourists in Broome. I just used to get in the boat. I used to cruise half an hour, 40 minutes offshore to like the other side of the bay. Go pull in a couple of like meter threadies, like threadfin salmon, which are way better eating than barra and stuff. Like one of the best eating fish in the ocean. Pull in 2 of them, come home.
Yeah.
Fill it.
So like
Make
go,
this
go
a
and
dinner.
catching a bream off a wharf and sort of lose its appeal after something like
Yeah,
that.
you're like, you know what? I don't actually want a herring.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you call them in WA? Muleys? Is it muleys?
We've got muleys are a bait. We've got herring, and then you might be thinking of like mulloway.
Nah. The little spotty ones. They are herring.
They're herring.
Yeah. I thought you had some
Mule-
special Western
no.
Australian name for them.
No, muleys are a type of bait. They're like a pilchard.
Ah,
Yeah.
right. Okay. You get my lines crossed.
Yeah, no, they're
Those
just
little herring are actually really good to eat.
they're unbelievable.
Really high oil
Oh,
content.
whiting you might be thinking of as well.
No,
No,
it was a name for herring, but it was
Dude,
someone that I
fresh
fished
herring?
with over there.
Fresh herring is like whiting, and it's clean white flesh. I just chuck them straight on the fire, like gut them straight on the fire, scales on everything.
Quite high oil content.
Yeah, but not fishy.
No,
Not at all
they're
fishy.
beautiful.
Yeah, they're like they're stunning. You just peel the skin off. Oil, salt and pepper. Oil, olive oil on fish. Fresh olive oil. So you put your lemon on, salt and pepper.
So olive oil, not
Like-
a neutral oil.
No. Heavy, strong, extra virgin olive oil. Fresh, not when you're cooking it. I'm talking
Yeah.
about afterwards.
Yeah, as
Put-
a dressing.
As a dressing. Change your life. That's how the
Interesting.
Greeks do fish. And it
Oh,
should
yeah,
be
of course.
swimming.
With like lemon juice and olive oil, right?
Should be swimming in a high quality extra virgin olive oil.
I'm going to
It
try
will
that.
completely change your opinion on fish.
So I'm going to ask not very technical, but I'm going to ask a technical cooking question to close this one out. Olive oil,
Yes.
not for cooking, with,
Okay.
or where are we at? Because, now let me just give you my take on this.
Yep.
I've watched a lot of Jamie Oliver over the years, and he just cooks everything in olive oil, in a large amount of olive oil. But as we've well, as I've progressed in terms of my technical understanding of cooking, my understanding is that you shouldn't cook with olive oil if it's high heat. Is that correct?
Okay, so I've recently been re-educated in this. So this is
Okay.
interesting. Okay, olive oil, you can actually take way more heat than I thought.
Okay.
So you can deep fry an olive oil. The reason I don't deep fry an olive oil is because it has too much flavour.
Okay.
And I actually don't want an oily taste in the things that I'm deep frying. So some things you absolutely can, like you could deep fry a fish in olive oil, no worries.
Doesn't matter, yeah.
If it was if it was just flour, like just with a bit of flour on it, but not battered. Battered because it'll hold in the batter.
Okay.
So if you've got something absorbent,
So like a potato.
like a potato, I wouldn't fry that in olive oil because it tastes too oily. I'd fry that in a neutral oil.
So just for anyone that hasn't maybe watched your stuff, we're talking like rice bran oil, grapeseed oil, those sort of things?
Exactly, just vegetable oil. That's
Okay.
fine. Yeah, canola oil, that kind of stuff. They have no real flavour, almost no flavour. But olive oil I use as a dressing. Some Italian things you can absolutely, like, for example, if you're frying up some like tomatoes for a bruschetta or something like that, or like something like that, absolutely cook it in some olive oil because you want that olive oily taste. But yeah, olive oil is for flavour, not as a lubricant or a transmitting.
Because my understanding of it was due to like smoke point. So it's
And
got a
that's-
lower smoke point than some other oils, or not?
It does have a lower smoke point, but it's nowhere near as low as I thought.
Okay,
So-
so it is a flavour-based decision, not
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever you call it, a science-based decision.
Yeah, so once oil reaches smoke point, it becomes carcinogenic.
Yes.
So you basically, that's why you don't want low smoke point oils. So if I was frying a steak, I would never use olive oil.
Yes.
Because it has a slightly lower smoke point than rice bran oil.
But you want the thing screaming hot.
But you want things screaming hot.
Yeah.
So like you actually want it at the smoke point and bugger it, just send it.
yeah.
Let's be
yeah.
honest. And you never use and you
Also,
would never
charred meat is technically carcinogenic, but it's
Totally.
also delicious.
delicious.
So, yeah.
Anything charred is carcinogenic. So
Yeah,
bugger
yeah.
it. No, so yeah, the olive oil thing is flavour, not heat based.
Consider myself educated. Thank
And
you.
you know who taught me that? Andy Herndon.
What a legend. Andy, you're probably not watching this, but if you are, mate, just keep it up.
Keep it up.
Love what you do.
Yeah.
Well, Harry, I really appreciate you taking the time, man. It's
It's been fun.
It's been an enjoyable chat, and I think I've almost 50% digested breakfast by now, a couple of hours later. Like Wagyu and bacon for breakfast is a thing. It's probably not a thing that you could do often if you wanted longevity in life.
Yeah, I'd be the size of a house if I ate all the food I cook.
Yeah.
Um,
But no,
So-
it's been really fun, man.
Thanks,
so
mate.
thank
Cheers.
you.
Appreciate it.
And shout out to Endak for housing
Oh,
us
mate.
on this
How good is
epic property.
And those cicadas have buggered off as well.
Yeah, and
It's
there's
not
like-
making a massive racket.
There's a couple of thousand less flies than there were earlier, so that's
yeah, I
also
mean my legs are
positive.
still covered in flies, but that's all right.
Too good. All right, man.
All right, cheers,
Well,
mate.
you look after yourself,
You
and
too.
we will see all of you guys next time on the outer side.
Get some sleep.